Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. I'm Brian Fitzy. Welcome to Building Blocks. This episode I'm going to show you how to bring in a recording of a drum groove, a drum break, anything that you even have sampled from a recording. Bring it into your DAW and chop it up and make it into a workable drum loop. So first I'm going to tell you here that I'm using Pro Tools. Let's take a loop at the screen. So what I've already done here is recorded a drum break in my live room, and I bounced it down to a stereo file, so here's what that sounds like. Alright, so the first thing that we need to think about is how long we actually want this loop to be. So we got to figure out how many bars of it we want. If we just want one measure of it, that's cool. If we want 4 measures of it and we have 4 measures to work with, that's cool. We're going to be limited, obviously, by how long that drum break is, but in this case, we've got a lot of room to work within. A whole lot of sound. This is probably about 16 bars worth of drum break. I don't want to use the whole thing for the purpose of this lesson, so let's find like 2 bars that we're going to just circle around. So I'm thinking maybe not take that crash cymbal in the very beginning. I like the idea of it maybe just coming in right on that hi-hat, so I'm going to find that beat here. I'm going to switch to a slip grid because this grid doesn't mean anything. We've just brought in a drum sample. Who knows what tempo it's at. So first I'm going to dial in this. It's pretty much right on the hit. I'm going to want to get right there, zoomed in as tight as I can. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my clip. Whatever DAW you're using, you're going to be able to do a razor blade on it. So I'm going to split my clip there, and then let's listen from there. Alright, so that's a little bit of a long run. Let's see if I can maybe just make it 2 bars. Alright, so maybe I want to just actually take it to right before I hit that crash cymbal and start it there. So we'll have just a true 2 bars. So let's find that crash cymbal hit. I was right on it already. So I'm going to slice there. Now what we can do is you can put your loop playback, you can put your playback mode into loop in pretty much every single DAW, and you'll be able to immediately hear if it works as a loop. So let's do that. Cool, we're in business. Alright, so now what I want to do is, I've got this region separated, I know that it plays cleanly as a loop, so I'm just going to click it, and I'm going to drag it somewhere else in the session. We can actually get rid of the other clips right now. So I'm just going to delete those. I'm going to bring this back over to the edge here of the session. And we can see immediately at the tempo, the default tempo of 120 beats per minute, that we've got just about 4 bars. You can see this little tiny sliver right here that isn't filled in. So that indicates to me that we're very close to 120 beats per minute. So we've got 2 options here. We can go with stick with 120, or we can go with a slightly faster tempo, which will result in that filling just a little bit tighter. So for the purpose of this, I think what I'm going to do is maybe go to 122 beats per minute. We'll see what that does here. So I'm going to change my tempo. Alright, now we're actually just a little bit too long, but that's cool. So what I'm going to use is every single DAW has like an elastic audio, a thing that allows you to shorten a clip and keep the pitch the same, or relatively the same. It's always easier to speed a clip up. When you start slowing it down, there's less information there, so because there's less information there, the software will have to figure out ways to mask that, and it'll have to fill in data that didn't exist in the first place based on data that it does have, and that's not necessarily the sound you want if you want to remain any integrity without artifacts. So for this, we're going to just speed it up just a touch. So I'm going to flip over to grid view, and what I'm going to do is change the mode to time corrective editing. If you're using Pro Tools, that's what you're going to want to do. And then just click and drag it so it locks in. Now it's just resized that. I'll go back to standard mode. And when I play this, this 4-measure loop, cool. Now what I can do, honestly, from here is just duplicate it down a few times. Let's just get rid of that last one. And now we've got a playable thing from the start. Now what's dope is now that it's gridded up, we have the ability to slice stuff up here and there. So I can go in on... zoom in here. I can go in and just split it at right at the halfway point there. So at 122 beats per minute, this is actually a 4-bar loop, right? So I'm going to clear that out and just duplicate this bit. So now we're going to have this fill. And that'll just keep playing like that. So now we've got this loop that can just go and go and go. We don't need to use the full length of it. We're just using half of it. And then anytime you want to switch it up, maybe at the end of every 4 times or the end of every 8 or 16, usually multiples of 4, then you can have that in there. And then it becomes something special at the end. We can also further chop this up. Assuming that the timing is consistent, we should be able to just slice it on the grid and do some really cool stuff with it. So we could take, let's see, we could just take a beat of it. I'll switch over my grid to quarter notes, and I can just grab a quarter note there, or I can switch this over to eighth notes, and I can just grab that, and say I duplicate that a few times. And we can further chop that kind of stuff up. I can switch over to a 16th note grid, and I could have just here 4 of those, and we'll do like some kind of stutter thing there, and let's see what happens. We can really start to mess with that sample and get some crazy glitchy stuff. Obviously, we can further manipulate this, but that's something for another lesson. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you next week.